I'm just creating a PMDA compliant rendition that won't include a TOC, and I'm going to create an FDA compliant rendition that will include a TOC as well and have slightly different PDF specs. It's going to do both all the time. Next week, we'll go into a little bit more complex scenarios about checking when you should, when you shouldn't, and so on. But right now, it's just always going to create both a Japanese and a US compliant rendition. So I've got a document, this global 266 toxicology written summary here, and I'm just going to show you that file directly before I start. And it's just a simple document that has some issues. It's got hyperlinks that are not blue, for example, they're black or red and so on. But it's a simple, in this case, quite a template type document as well. It's even got some guidance text remaining in here that it shouldn't have. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that document, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to ignore the fact that there's a viewable rendition here already. I'm going to basically change the lifecycle status here to DocShifter ready. So the one thing that you have to do is define what are the trigger statuses for when something should take place in DocShifter, and say, okay, when in the lifecycle for this type of document, when you reach this lifecycle status, this should happen. So when I change this to DocShifter ready, DocShifter will be looking for, looking in the Veeva content, that workflow will be looking, monitoring. When it sees this to DocShifter ready, it will then pick it up, and it's now in process. That means the file is being processed by DocShifter. There's this interim status that means it's in progress right now. If I just refresh, it should quite quickly be in review. So that's the status that it's moved to at the end. It's taken the document, it's created two renditions, and then it moves the status on, in this case, in this life cycle, to in review. That could obviously be whatever you want it to be in your life cycles. But if I now look over at my document things, I now have two different renditions. And again, I'm just using one. I've kind of replaced the viewable rendition with the PMDA rendition, and I've created what's called a compliant rendition, which is the FDA one. You could name these whatever you like. I could have one called the FDA, one called Swissmedic, one called CH. I'm just using names that are already there. But obviously, you could leverage the fact that Veeva has multiple rendition types and create as many different ones as you like. I'm creating them as renditions. You could equally create them as new objects in Veeva Vault as well. They don't have to be stored as renditions. They can be stored as new PDF objects too. But what I'm going to do is they view a little bit better if I show you them in Acrobat. So I'm going to download these two files, and then I will open them up directly in Acrobat so you could see these two documents, what they look like. So what I have is I have my Japanese rendition, which basically the way I bookmark in Japan is maybe slightly different in that I group my tables together. So instead of having tables scattered throughout the bookmark tree, I group them at the end, and I kind of have this kind of structure. But it's made sure all of my links are blue. It's compliant. Everything is set to inherit zoom on every link. The same thing on every single bookmark. All of these are also inherit zoom. All my properties are correct. If I go to my document properties, it's optimized for fast web view. It's PDF version 1.7. Fonts have been embedded fully. My initial view settings are correct, etc., etc. So all of that's been done for Japan. Simultaneously, from the same content, I created one for the US. And you notice in the workflow, I had a step to say, add a TOC if it's needed. So I've told it the parameters for when a TOC should be added. Once it's over 5 pages or 10 pages, depending on if it's FDA or Canada, or you may be different. I can set those triggers for when it should be included. And it's created a TOC at the beginning. You can define the look and feel of this TOC, of course, as well. So added a TOC. The rest of this is similar. Of course, a lot of it will be the same. But the bookmarks are also slightly different. So I don't group my bookmarks at the end here. I've got them scattered. My tables are scattered throughout the bookmark tree. So it just shows you some differences that you can achieve automatically instead of having to create the PDF file one way, and then manipulate it manually or with tools to prepare it for a different region where you may want to do it slightly differently, okay?